Hey, you guys, are you all ready to get started?
Yeah.
Say yes if you're ready.
Yes.
All right, great. So we have a wonderful speaker with us today. He's volunteered his time to come and talk to you. Aren't you pleased that he's here?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. So we're also broadcasting to all 3 campuses. So they'll be hearing your questions in the room, and they'll also be able to ask questions online. So I really mean it when I say think of good questions for him, because he's here and he's yours to talk to for the next hour. So I'll turn it over now to you, Vishi. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure. So I've always wanted to start a presentation, especially one that's being televised with it's like a photo bomb. But,
now you did it.
Yeah, I just did. So it's like, as I said, when I started out, when I asked for an idea about the presentation, what I was told was, okay, today is code day. You do stuff at your workplace that involves computers and high-tech stuff. So tell us what you do, and that's what I have in my presentation. You're not going to see Java code out here. You're not going to see Python code out here. In fact, I'll admit shamelessly that in my role as a project manager, I've gotten to a stage where I'm too dangerous to code at this point in time. All right. So that being said, the only other thing that I wanted to let you all know is the only silly question is the one that is unasked. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along, and I'll be glad to answer them if I know the answers to those. If I don't, I'm going to refer to, I don't know how many of you, this is probably going to show my age. This is a wonderful book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. For those of you who have read it, the default answer, to which I really don't know the answers, is 42. So you can go get the question.
It was a movie recently. So.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about the movie, because if you read the book and you're a purist,
you don't even watch the movie.
Didn't quite cut it. It's not the same. So the first thought that came to mind when I read Day of Code was almost like that, right? Day of Judgment, Terminator, or whatever else. So then I figured, okay, it's all about the code. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is this kind of code, software code, computer programs, what we do for the oil and gas industry, which is where I work. I work for Schlumberger, and I'll walk you through that in just a bit, what I do, where I came from, and all that stuff. All right, so the who, where, and what. That is my name. It's actually shortened. I think it's 2 letters short of the entire gamut of the English alphabet. My favorite quip is that names in India are made this way on purpose so that we can learn our alphabets better. You can ask me, I can do the whole thing backwards if you want, the alphabet routine. But all that aside, I was born in Bombay. I know some of you would have heard the name as Mumbai. It still is good old Bombay to me. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I've been a proud American citizen since 2006. I moved here, so I actually came to this country in '94, and that city right there, it still is first love in as far as places go, the San Francisco Bay Area. I moved to Houston in 2005, which explains the 3 sequence of pictures. You can see that's my level of maturity of telling a story. And I work as an IT project manager. So I'm going to talk about Schlumberger in just a bit, but my team is part of a large program which is called IT transformation. We are transforming the way the company works, at least from the IT side. So I'm trying to think back, maybe about 3 years ago, Schlumberger said, the oil and gas industry is an amazing beast, right? For years together, as much as I hate to say it, we have not looked at efficiencies. Look at it. I mean, what other form of energy do you have that is as cheap and easy to obtain as the petrochemical industry, right? Oil and gas. So far we have. As far as I'm going to go ahead and say this, we have not looked at efficiencies. But 4 years ago, and somebody has always been a forerunner in this one, our CEO woke up and said, no, this is not how we're going to continue doing business. We got to make this more efficient. And with that was born the transformation project. We are looking at, and in as much, I love saying this, and I would say that 50 times. We're going to transform this the way we work, and it's a paradigm shift. All right. That's how proud I am working in this. So we are part of the transformation, and we are part of the IT side of the transformation. where we are helping the business get more efficient through by making the IT support systems better, faster, more efficient, and hopefully with little less. I don't call them bugs; they're just unwanted features. So hopefully we can do that. So I am the IT project manager for the integration and architecture team, which is part of the IT transformation project. I'm sure all of you have heard of the term SAP. It's an ERP system, and I'm going to throw a whole bunch of three-letter acronyms. And if you have any questions with regards to that, raise your hand, and I'll cook up something on my own. No, I was kidding. SAP is a ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system, which allows companies to do workflows end to end, right from the time that you drill the oil from the ground up and take it out to the distribution systems, you sell it to people, the finances, the logistics, the supply chain, the manufacturing, all of it comes integrated in one software. They're modules, all right, but it's all part of the one software package that you get, and we're using SAP to implement that. I already told you about Schlumberger, and what we're doing there is, so that's predominantly what I do is that all IT. When I joined the company, I swear, I thought the best way to find oil was to walk with a divining stick and it vibrates you, there's oil and you get it. But over a period of time, I've learned a lot of stuff. But I don't do any of the stuff that's done out on the field. I help develop software that helps them do that faster, better, easier. All right. It's a bit of nerdiness in my presentation, so go ahead and laugh if you should. Don't be ashamed of it. How did I get here? Flew, of course. Swiss Air, to be precise. So I'm going to go through this real quick. I shouldn't have done this animation. All right. Oh, yeah, I got to go back to get the dramatic effect. All right, there we go. All right. So I completed my bachelor's in computer engineering back in India. This was when I actually went to school. Wait, no, I'm not going to tell you the truth. I did go to school every day, and I was a very good student. So please, stay in school, study well, and all the stuff that goes with it. All right, so I moved to that place right there, the San Francisco Bay Area, the capital of the world, in 1994. I was there on a kind of contractual assignment. If you look at it now, just by the prices, you'll probably question the awesomeness of it, but it still is awesome in my mind. It's one of my most favorite places in the Bay Area, the Crooked Street. All right, so I moved to Houston in '95. So the contract that I came on was a product that we developed out in California. Schlumberger actually bought a company that was based out of Marin County. And why do I need to tell you these details? Because of the most wonderful thing as far as that workplace was concerned. The office was on a drive called Paradise Drive, and it was true in every sense. You had mountains on one side, the ocean on the other, and you had to work there. That was the tough part. Anyway, so, all right. Don't get me wrong. I love Houston. All of us can make enough money out here that we can go visit places that we like, unlike having to run a rat race and, just take your paycheck and give it to the rent guys, market guys, and everybody else out there in the Bay Area. All right. So, the quip that I like to make is that I started developing software for Schlumberger. They figured, dude, you put all the bugs in, we're not letting you get away that easy. Stay with us. So they offered me a job 18 years ago, and I joined Schlumberger. I've been bleeding Schlumberger blue since then. All right, they pay me, but they do extract an equal amount of blood, though, and so does every other company. All right. So all that aside, I'm going to give you a bit of a 101 in terms of oil field jargon and terminology. So in the oil field, there are three major categories in which we have players do multiple things. You have the upstream, which is the exploration and production. This is where you go out and figure out where exactly the oil deposits are. Figuring out is one thing. How do you get the oil up from below the ground? And I always think, what would the dinosaurs think if they actually see us get all this oil and run all our cars? I just hope they don't ask to drive a Maserati at some point in time. But There's the exploration part, and once you've figured out where the oil is under the ground, you need to be able to bring it up, and that's the production part of things. Those two constitute what we call the upstream. Once you're done with that, you got to bring it into the refining areas. You got to store it. You got to transport it. So in terms of the storage, the refining, and the marketing, you get the midstream and the downstream. All right. So the gas stations that you see, a Chevron or an Exxon or any of these guys, would be part of downstream. Where does Schlumberger fit in? That's where we come in. We do upstream like nobody else. We're the best out there. All right. Laughing, right? No, it's true. If you look at it, it's true. I mean, there are competitors, but we have managed to stay ahead of the competition, and that's to a large extent it's because we are proactive and we have IT, right? So it's all good. All right. In terms of software within the oil and gas industry, again, at a broad basis, at a 10,000-foot level, two major categories. One is the engineering type of software. The other one is the business applications. The engineering software, so if you look at the pictures out here, and I'm going to try and see, if we have enough time, I'll show you videos of how we do this stuff. How many, so it's really difficult for us to look under the earth, right? And sure, you could have, when we started out, it would all be numeric, and you would have a bunch of these scientists poring over these numbers and use the numbers to figure out where exactly the oil formations were under the earth. Not a very nice thing to do, and wasn't very easy either. So part of what our engineering suite of software does is it shows you the formation of the earth below the earth's surface in 3D. We actually have something called the cave, and this is like, you wear those visualization goggles, the reality goggles, walk in, and you can actually see the formations as you go by. It's pretty cool. I think we still have that up in Schlumberger Information Solutions, which is the part of Schlumberger software organization that writes software for the external folks, the likes of Chevron, Exxon, Shell. They buy software from us, and that kind of software, it's visualization software to start with. You drill a well, you don't know how your drill bit is going down. There's only this much. So it used to be that there were a bunch of these guys called directional drillers who considered themselves next only to God prior to these visualization software techniques that got in, right? They told you that the bit was going right. You had to believe them that the bit was going right. And I don't mean to put them down. They were really cool. They could tell you, it was experience, right? They could tell you exactly where the bit is headed. But we now have software that can actually show you the trajectory of the bit, all right? So that's part of the engineering suite of software. Do I do that? No, that's way too complicated for me. My brain. So my IQ level is a bit lower than that. But let me tell you this though, let's not belittle the business applications part. That is important too. What we do is we develop software that allows the company to not only track some of the areas that they do work in, like the finance part, the HR part, business intelligence, and trust me guys, that's not an oxymoron, it exists, right? The BI part, and last but not the least, the latest jargon, which is advanced analytics. So the idea is that you look at historical data, large volumes of it, and be able to extract information from it that can tell you, all right, if you're going to be drilling in this kind of a formation with these kind of conditions, with high pressure and high temperature, you had billed clients, $2 million or $20 million or whatever else earlier, and on about 90% of the jobs, you didn't quite make a profit. So henceforth, if you come across a situation like this, given these parameters, maybe you want to bill them like 40 million or whatever else, right? So that way, it can tell you stuff based on history, but looking forward. Whereas if you look at the rest of the stuff, it tells you what happened. It doesn't look ahead. Are we predicting the future out there? Maybe. How many of you have seen Minority Report? Have you watched that movie? Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's pretty cool, right? You can actually predict. Now, it's all based on statistics, and 42.36275% of statistics are made up on the spot anyways. So I'll leave it to you whether you want to believe that or not. But it's a really cool area to focus on. All right. So what do I do apart from the fact that I talk a lot? I manage a team of integration architects. So today, as we move, I got to take a little bit of a segue backwards. I'm going to rewind. So I told you that we are looking as part of the transformation initiative, we are looking at making things more efficient. And in IT, so Schlumberger is an organization that has grown by acquisitions over a period of time. We buy companies that help us with our business. And over a period of time, we have gotten all the software components that came with these companies. I think the last count that I remember was 150 different business applications. Each one of them had their own databases. Now, if you wanted to take a look at all the finances or all the operations from an organizational perspective, how are we doing as Schlumberger? It was a job in itself. You'd have people collecting all this information, and this is something that it's a love-hate relationship that I have with Excel spreadsheets. And just for academics, let me tell you, if you get an opportunity to specialize in Excel, don't let it go. I don't think that's going away in a hurry. It's one of the best tools that we have, and it's one of the worst tools that we have ever made, right? That we have from Microsoft, because anybody and their mother-in-law, and I don't have anything against mother-in-laws, but everybody and their mother-in-law knows how to put together an Excel spreadsheet. So you get all that information, put it in a spreadsheet, and before you know it, you have about 1,500 spreadsheets that are lying all over the place. So what we're doing now with SAP is to bring all of this into one database, into a uniform solution. So somebody who goes from one segment of Schlumberger to another segment, or one of the companies that we acquired is coming into Schlumberger, and there are folks that get transferred between them, they don't have to go figure out, oh, how do I do this? What's different from what I used to do? Multiple things. It's all, for lack of a better word, Walmartized. It's uniform, right? You can do that. So what we're doing there is that the team that I manage, I have a bunch of integration architects. We go to each one of these domains. So we go to supply chain, we go to manufacturing, we go to finance, we go to HR, and we have what are known as value streams, right? Market to cash, record to retire, acquire to retire, record to people that we recruit. So we have these high-level value streams that we identify, and these are what happen on a day-to-day basis. So manufacturing says, okay, how do you go about doing your job? Tell me that. Note it all down. And we map it to the appropriate modules within SAP and tie it all together. So that's where the integration part comes from. All right, that's what we do. Let's see. All right, so I already spoke about implementing the ERP system, which is SAP, where we tie all these things together. I'd like to think of us as the hub, which is both good and bad. Anybody needs anything, they come to us. Oh, you ran through that value stream. What happened here? Did we do split valuation? How did you handle the finances? And the downside of it is, if anything goes wrong, guess who they blame? All right. So, but it's okay. I mean, I think it's all worth it. And I'll take them. So the one thing that I have learned, and it's by my own experience. My English is failing me here. Pardon me. But guys, if you don't fail, you haven't learned anything. We have failed. We have failed on a few of these things, but that doesn't mean we sit down and go, oh my gosh, we have failed to do this. That's it. We're done. No, we get back up. And we just make sure that we don't commit the same mistake twice. A new one each time maybe, but not the same one twice. But so we do the integration part, and we are the hub of the IT integration initiative. All right, so my primary focus is on three key areas: the technical, transactional, and the transformational. Right, that's more than alliterative. Having said that, that's what people think I do, though. All right, so it's we're going to ask you for estimates, and then we'll tell you that you got to do that in a week. So, all right, let's go into a bit of the detail out here. And again, if at any point in time, feel free to stop me. I'm just going to get all these things up there so I don't have to do this each time. All right, there we go. So, what does a day in my life look like, apart from the side where I wake the kids up and get them ready, and my wife yells at me, and no, she loves me. But put the home front aside, I'm responsible for facilitating the discussions among the various groups. So as I told you, we have these end-to-end scenarios. We bring manufacturing, supply chain, and everybody else in. It's interesting dynamics. You get 4 people in a room and ask them for something, you get 6 opinions. The point is to figure out which ones of them actually work which ones of them matter, and string it all together. All right. The value chains that I was talking about, market to cash, or acquire to retire, or recruit to, the recruit people, and so on and so forth. Those are the end-to-end business scenarios. So we create workflows that detail these end-to-end scenarios. And then we take them to the implementation team who does, so as far as possible, we minimize the amount of coding or how shall I say, things that are very specific to certain domains, right? We don't have custom, we try to minimize the custom code in the application. But all that aside, we string these together and supply them to the implementation team. All right. So from my perspective, I create the project plans. I make sure that I keep them up to date. I also, as part of the project management portfolio, or as part of my duties, I need to be able to look at these things, and not just these tasks, right? So just a short while ago, I showed you these things about estimates. Trust me, Murphy exists, and he is all powerful. You have the best of plans, and it's going to go wrong. You have to bet on that. So I need to be able to manage these issues as they come by. I need to be able to look at risks and predict as far as possible before they actually occur. That's basically the management of risks. I have the wonderful job of presenting weekly status reports to the upper management. I'm the guy who goes and breaks the bad news, and I have to protect my team, which is fine. I mean, I love it. It's the creativity that is involved in coming up with lies. No, with this creative statements is just wonderful. So I present weekly reports to the upper management. So as part of this, it's what we're doing now is developing something to take care of our, I wouldn't say past sins, but the fact that we had these disparate business applications. We don't stop with that. The reason Schlumberger is the industry leader is because we look ahead. All right, so we're done with this. How are we going to implement this? What are we going to do with this in the future? How are we going to make it better? So as part of that, we have meetings ever so often to discuss strategies for the short term, mid term, and the long term. Long term is a shot in the dark. You just do that and hope it works. But with a bit of informed, shall I say, make an informed decision on those. But I love those because in between the short and the midterm, you have the opportunity, or my team has the opportunity to make a huge difference out there. All right, change management. If there's, as cliche as it might sound, the one thing that is constant in life is change. And through the project, I have to make sure that I know how to manage change every time it comes along. Right, so that's the usual perception. I've told you that, and most people think that is what is the truth. So you're a manager, you can forward emails very well. I can do that, but I add my 2 cents to it, so that way it's slightly different. All right. So, all right. And this I'm going to be able to. Oh, that is a dramatic effect. All right. As part of this project, I heard that this morning there were presentations from IBM. They are our partners in crime, partners in success. I take the latter. So IBM is not the only external vendor. This is a huge project. We work with multiple vendors. And if just a short while ago, I told you 4 people in the same organization have 6 opinions, you bring vendors in, that multiplies 4-fold. One of my key directives is to actually work with external vendors, make sure that we focus the vendors as well as the employees towards the success of the project. All right. The rest of it, it's stuff that it could be made blown up beyond proportions. I take it as a normal. Anybody with a little bit of common sense should be able to do that if you have people skills. You'd see a bunch of business school jargon about empathy and being able to relate to people. Guys, that's any human being is born with that. If you can hone those skills, just make yourself slightly better than the rest of them. Management skills and people management and everything else comes in automatically. I know I'm belittling myself, but trust me, we can do it. Anybody, all you need to do is just assess yourself and take a step above. So I'm going to explain what I do in terms of that, right? I manage people. More than manage, the way I look at it is I work with them. I would be nothing without them. If all of them decide to, one day they decide to say, you know what, dude, you're on your own. We're not going to do what you said. I'm done. There's nothing that I can do. So I work with my team to be able to get the project to success, right? Mentor members. A lot of the times, if you hear me speak a short while ago, you'd go, this guy is all over the place. His jokes suck. What is he going to do? But trust me, I do mentor people. There are freshers who come into the organization. They don't know how to go about doing things, and they definitely need a mentor. These are brilliant people, right? You don't want to let them go. You want to make sure that you don't want to let them go because they're frustrated because they don't know what to do. I've mentored a bunch of people, and I think I can say with absolute surety that they're still with the organization in spite of me. Organize team activities and lunch and learns and stuff like that's fun stuff, right? So ever so often you got to make sure that the morale of the team stays intact. We're still in the period where the day begins at 7 a.m. and it's people still at work 7:30, 8ish. Eventually we'll get a life, but during these times you need to make sure that the morale of the team stays intact, and ever so often we have group activities, team stuff. In fact, there was a time when I thought about ziplining, but for some reason the insurance guys and they don't seem to like that. The legal part of the company doesn't seem to like that. But the other thing that I take care of, and this is the part that I really love. Oh no, okay. So is keeping the technical expertise of the team up to snuff, right? You got to make sure. Software, I'm sure all of you know, is one of those fields where even after 35 years, we're still nascent, we're still changing, and change is fast. I can't think of another industry that changes as fast as software, except people's minds. But having said all of this, so I told you what I do and how I do it and all that kind of stuff. And apart from the fact about the quips about forwarding email very well and cutting short estimates and taking them to be the actual ones, this is reality. Trust me, this is. Lately I've had an issue finding telephone booths where I can change, but that's me.
I recognize you.
Be glad I'm not wearing my spectacles, because otherwise you would not know who
Oh,
I
right.
am.
I wouldn't have any
You
idea.
would have no clue. All right. So what's cool about what I do? I'm going to stop at the last one here. All right. So what I like about what I do, Schlumberger has and you'll see this when you go out into the industry. Step back a little bit, and if you look at some of these processes, I don't think people do them on purpose. It's just that they've followed some of these processes, and over a period of time, they've gotten really complex. I love those opportunities where you can look at a process, step back and say, why are you doing this? And the first reaction that you would get from a majority of people is, that's how we have been doing it always. Never accept it, guys. Never, ever accept that. Sometimes it might be true. You step back, look at it, and that might be a fact. But that is really, really interesting. When you can look at a really complicated process, come back and say, hey, why don't you do it this way? It's so simple. Awesome. Automation of mundane tasks. I truly believe in that. There's this one dude that I worship as my hero, and I don't know where he is right now. Apparently, he managed to automate 90% of what he does at work. Not only at work, but even with IoT, automate making coffee, contact a coffee machine and make sure that it brews coffee at a particular point of time. And he never had to work. People didn't even know that he actually worked. That's what I'm striving for. I'm not there yet, but I think I'll get there. But automation of mundane tasks. You start doing these repetitive things, you could pretty much be a machine. So as far as possible, you got to automate these things. I love those. I wish the CEO was here to read that. But what we do helps increase the reliability and the efficiency of what we do. Right? Computers are amazing that way. You don't have. Well, I'll leave it at that. You know how quickly and how large, how they can crunch numbers of large volumes to come up with absolutely precise results. All right. Oh yeah, this one right here. The visualization. I'm hoping that I can show you a video of the cave, the 3D visualizations that we do. That makes a huge difference. People who have seen it go, man, I wish I had this 10 years ago. when they were looking at the seismic logs and trying to decipher what exactly the formation looked like under the earth. Cutting edge technology. That's awesome. This one right here. Who would have thought that this would do, maps and emails and texts and everything else, right? Pictures too. I know who carries a camera anymore, right? It's just awesome. That the ability to do those kind of things. All right. Aside all of this stuff, there's this. So if I were to throw a whole bunch of jargon at you, artificial intelligence, about machine learning, about IoT, about ERP, about SAS, about IAS, when you go to the parties, that's the life of the party. Seriously, I mean, nothing beats that. Right? People are impressed. They actually have a signal when folks like us walk in. All right? But, see these guys? They're probably the quintessential examples of nerds. Have you seen the houses they live in and the cars that they drive? I'm not ashamed of being called a nerd. It's fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. All right? Questions?
Can you please put on your sunglasses?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You want to not recognize him anymore?
You want me to get the pen out? That'll zap your memory too? All right. What else?
There's a campus for an oil company. I'm not sure if it's Schlumberger or Shell, but the fence is white concrete and all the buildings are white concrete and it's a very flat campus. It's along the road. Is that
Where?
Schlumberger?
Where?
I don't know what road it's on.
Okay.
Anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and Houston.
Like where the company is.
Yeah, so
probably almost.
so I'll tell you where our office. Sorry.
I think I've seen that off Westheimer, what he's talking about.
Westheimer?
Is that Schlumberger or Shell?
So I'll tell you where we have offices though. Where I work is about 3 minutes from here. It's on Enclave and Briar Forest.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have 2 buildings out there. Oh, there's more to it. We got at least 6 to 7 facilities out here. So that the 2 offices that are on Enclave, one is a financial hub, the other one is the IT hub, which is where my office is. There's one in Sugarland on 90 between Dairy Ashford and Industrial Boulevard. That's our manufacturing and R&D facility. It's a huge campus. We got one in Rochelle, which is 45 South. There's one in Ardmore, which is within the 610 loop. There's one on Richmond and Beltway 8. I don't think those are white buildings though, because the majority of the Schlumberger buildings, you'll see blue. There's a reason why, right? Our logo is blue, we're Schlumberger blue. That's how we started out. There's probably a few more here and there, but I'm not sure that we have a campus that has white buildings on that. So, yeah.
Must be Shell.
Probably. Yes.
What did you do in college? Because it sounds like you do a lot of management, but also work in computer science as well. So
Yeah, it's spot on, and I'm glad you asked that question. So I
Will you
started
repeat
out.
that back, Vishy, so the people who are watching?
Sure.
they have
Yeah. So
people-
the question was, when the question was asked, he said, "What did you do in college?" And I was afraid that I would have to speak the truth, but luckily he added something to it, saying, "You do management and you do software. So what exactly did you do as part of your college routine, right?" So my bachelor's was in computers, right? It was coding, out and out, databases, software code, C, C++. We didn't get to Java at school. I learned it afterwards. That's probably speaks my age, but mentally I'm still 12 and a half, I think. But my bachelor's was in computers, and that was hardcore coding, software, hardware, software predominantly. I started out writing software for the company, and I think maybe about 5 to 6 years into it, you get into this phenomenon of been there, done that. I've managed people. They seem to be a more interesting thing, much more of a challenge than software I've written can do it. So I wanted to start doing that. 2003, I think it was, I did my master's in business administration. I went back to U of H.
Yeah.
And then since then, or even prior to that, I've been managing projects. When I started out, I would still code, but I've made a conscious effort, even though the first thing that I think of when a problem comes up is, how can I code it? How can I design it? I try to stay away from it and let the folks in the team do that, so that you're not looking at the minutiae, but you sit back and look at the big picture. Did that answer your question? All right. Yes, sir.
Was college the first time you experienced coding?
Was college the first time that I did?
You started coding.
Good question. So was college the first time that I started coding? No. So I studied back in India, if you can, whenever I went to school. But so the system works like this, right? You get to 10th grade, you're in school, and you still do, at least the system that I studied under, and there's 2 years of school that you do more before you get into the graduate level. All right. I started coding in school. The last 2 years of school, we had the option of biology, electives, biology, chemistry, nuclear physics, which is physics, or software. And that's when I started coding, way back in school. Did I just say way back in school? About 2 years ago. So. All right. Yes.
So a lot of us are going into engineering or computer science or something like that. Do you have any advice for people who are just starting out going to university now?
I think I could go on and on about that, but I usually start with buy low, sell high if you're going to be buying stocks. That's the general advice that I give people. So here's the deal, right? In terms of, I mean, any profession is noble. Not all could pay the same though. But let's face it, engineering, not just computer science, but anything that has to do with engineering, and my forte is computer science, so I'll speak to that, are definitely noble professions. It's not easy. There's a reason why it's not easy, right? If things in life came easy, then anybody would do that. So it's something that is really cool, worth pursuing. In terms of software, what I would recommend is that, so here's the deal. When I started out coding in school, and things have probably changed a lot now. The first programs that we wrote were things like write a program to generate odd numbers or prime numbers or whatever else. Fine and dandy, you got to start somewhere. The earlier you start looking at real world problems, the better for you. So don't just, I mean, the only piece of advice that I can give you apart from study well, go to school, make sure that you do your homework is don't be satisfied with just what is taught out there. Try to put it, equate it to how you would actually use that knowledge in the real world. That will give you a leg up among any of you, I mean, the rest of the folks. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question on that one, but that's about as simplistic an answer as I could think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Like you learn computer in college, like the software, and then you go into the actual stage right now. Do you continue to learn stuff about coding? Like other than manage stuff you continue to learn techniques and then like after coding, like do work and stuff?
Yeah. So yes, done with the question. I think I got it. So I'm going to repeat the question and correct me if I'm wrong. So you started out by saying I started learning to code in school, in college. Then I started managing people, but I still do keep tabs and make sure that I'm up with technology and newer languages and coding and stuff like that. Was that the question? And the answer to that is yes. And I'll tell you why. It's not that anybody wants to fool you or to give you wrong estimates or things like that. But when you go in to implement a particular technology, you need to know. So it's like, the reason you need to know what you're doing is so that you do your job way better than the others. You've got to keep abreast. There is no off button in the learning process, especially in software, especially at the rate at which it's changing right now. So it's always good to keep abreast of technology so that you when you look at strategies that you want to implement for the company, you want to make sure that you're ahead of the curve. You need to know the technology, right? You need to be able to do that, and that is an important reason why you need to keep abreast of these technologies and learning as much as you can. Now, in terms of coding, did I actually go learn Python? Did I look at any other language? What were the two languages? Apple put out its code base. I'm sorry, what is that? Swift, yes. So do I go and learn all those things, exactly how to code and so on and so forth? No, I got 2 kids. I got a life outside of work. So there's other stuff that I do. But in general, once you've known how to write a program, it's the syntax of the languages varies, but the concept still remains the same. Yeah. So did I answer your question on that? All right. Any other questions?
You'd said something about solving real world problems. What are some examples of problems that you guys are working on right now?
So, the most contrasting thing that I can give you, and just from personal experience, in school, we always used to write programs, as I told you, prime numbers, Fibonacci series, and so on and so forth. During my summer vacation, I actually did 2 jobs out there. One was I implemented a library maintenance system. As simple as it might seem, there was, so it was my uncle's firm, and I managed to get in there. So they had a library, they had a ton of books. Databases, relational databases were something new at that point in time. And I implemented a system that allowed them to catalog these books, and just like a normal library. You have these codes, you look it up, you know which shelf it is on, and who took it, who borrowed it. The reason I bring that up is because that is an unforgettable experience for me. So I'll get back to why it was. So that was one. The other one was, these medical stores. We have a ton of them back in India, right? And there were a lot of them had issues keeping track of how much stock they have, when do they have to reorder, what are the lots that came in, what price did they pay, how much of it have they sold, and so on and so forth. And I implemented systems that would allow them to track those. This was during school, and so the reason I bring those up is those are more real world practical problems, as opposed to, don't get me wrong, you still need to know how to write a program to generate odd numbers or a Fibonacci series or whatever else. But focusing on these kind of things, to be able to take how you write the code and put it into practice to solve these kind of problems is what I was talking about. Did I answer your question on that one? And the reason I bring up the library maintenance project was, again, this is, and I'm not going to cry. I'm not going. If you don't bring out your napkins yet, and so on and so forth. The computers are wonderful things, but there's something that is way, way, way better than that, and that's us humans, guys. So I had this friend of mine. He was, what do you call that? Legally blind. When I used to work, that sounds like a title for a movie, but
It's close.
it's close enough, isn't it? So a few words here and then it would change it. But silly jokes aside, his name was Nagi. I haven't kept in touch with him lately, but the point is this, right? When we implemented that system, I was going to write code, and I figured, okay, well, how am I going to do this? There's a ton of books, and they said, you're going to get some help. And in walks this guy. I'm looking at him. He has this stick that they use to walk in. I go, he's going to help me? And he did. He did, in every which way. Not just for cataloging the books, but to figure out how to live life. It didn't bother him for a second that he couldn't see. He wanted to rule the world. He wanted to do everything that was possible. And if I can leave this discussion with that essence, right, guys, life is a wonderful thing, right? Aim for more, all the time, more, good things. Let's make sure they're good things. All right, I got to add that caveat because it's a dicey thing. Anything else?
We may have time for one more question. Anybody got something you want to leave with?
Yeah.
So when you were learning coding in college, was it specifically only software oriented, or did you also do hardware?
Could you repeat the question, please?
When you were in college, you baby and
Right.
did you only learn about coding, or did you also learn about hardware?
Oh, okay. So the question was, when I was studying in college, did we learn about just coding, or did we learn about hardware too? So it was computer engineering, which is what I studied, and we did learn a bit about the hardware too. We did not do machine level code. We did higher languages, C, C++, but we did learn about circuit boards, ICs, controllers, and everything else. So yeah, we did. And I think we actually had a couple of courses in assembly level language too. I hated it, but we did.
All right. I think we're almost finished today. Can you guys give him a round of applause? Thank you guys so much for being here and asking good questions. And thank you so much for being our speaker this afternoon. You set us off right. And you guys are going to go code with your peers now, right? You're going to go help them understand what code is and that kind of thing, right? Yeah. All right. Well, have a good afternoon, and thank you again so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Dave.